Hello everyone, I am Dr. Karouche, Assistant Professor at the Department of English Language and Literature, Mohammed Seddik bin Yahia University in Jijel. In this sequence, the first part of Lesson 1 of our Critical Theory module, we are going to study Cathy Caruth's trauma theory. This is one of the foundational frameworks of contemporary literary studies, and understanding it is essential before we can engage seriously with Nora Okja Keller's novel, Comfort Woman. So by the end of this short sequence, you will be able to define trauma as a belated experience, explain three key concepts, and distinguish between two modes of relating to the traumatic past. So let us begin by situating our theorist. Cathy Caruth is an American literary scholar, professor of comparative literature at Cornell University. She published two landmark works in the 1990s that transformed how literary critics think about extreme experience. An edited volume called Trauma Exploration in Memory in 1995, and her own book Unclaimed Experience, Trauma, Narrative and History in 1996. Caruth drew on Freudian psychoanalysis and the clinical trauma research that had emerged in the wake of the Vietnam War and the Holocaust studies. She argued that literature is uniquely capable of engaging with experiences that exceed ordinary understanding, and that formal features like fragmentation and nonlinearity are not weaknesses but arguments. We will see exactly what she means when we apply her framework to Comfort Woman. Before we can understand Caruth's concept, we need to be precise about what she means by trauma, because her definition is quite different from everyday usage. So, in ordinary speech, trauma simply means a very painful experience, but this definition does not explain why some experiences continue to return, to intrude, to disrupt long after the event has passed. Caruth's definition is more precise. So for her, trauma is an experience that overwhelms the individual's capacity to process it at the moment it occurs. So as a result, the event is not fully experienced when it happens. It is preserved in unprocessed form and returned later in forms of fragmentation, flashbacks, nightmares, and compulsive repetition. The crucial point is this: trauma is defined not by the event itself, but by the structure of its return. So, the first key concept is belatedness, a term Caruth borrows from Freud. The idea is this: a traumatic event is not fully experienced at the moment it occurs. The mind cannot register it completely. It is preserved in unprocessed form and comes back later through memory, through nightmares, and through compulsive repetition. So, to know a traumatic event is always to know it too late, after the fact, in its return rather than its occurrence. Look at the timeline of this slide. The event happens, a period of apparent normality follows. This is latency period, and then the trauma returns. So, consider the novel Comfort Woman. Akiko does not tell her story chronologically. Her memories of the comfort station erupt into her present narration, rather warning or transition. This is belatedness at work. The novel structure is not a stylistic choice, it is a formal argument about how traumatic memory operates. So here we have two related concepts, latency and intrusion. Latency is the period between traumatic events and its symptomatic return. During this period, the subject may appear to function normally. There are no visible signs of disturbance, but the trauma is not absent. It is dormant, unprocessed, and waiting. Intrusion is the moment when that dormant material breaks through into consciousness involuntarily and without warning. It takes the form of flashbacks, nightmares, or sensory triggers that collapse the distance between past and present. Together, latency and intrusion explain the characteristics rhythm of trauma narrative. The text moves between stability and rupture, between calm and sudden eruption. In Comfort Woman, Akiko's chapters follow exactly this rhythm. Her present tense narration is repeatedly interrupted by the past that has not been processed. The third and final concept pair acting out and working through. Acting out is the mode which the subject compulsively repeats the traumatic past without any critical distance. The past is not remembered, it is reenacted. The subject feels possessed by something they cannot control. There is no temporal distance. The trauma feels as immediate as when it is first occurred. Working through, by contrast, is the gradual process of achieving enough distance from the experience to integrate it into a livable narrative. The past is acknowledged and given form. And I want to be very clear here, working through does not mean forgetting, it does not mean resolution. It means learning to live with that or what cannot be undone. Applying this to comfort women, Akiko's shamanic state, where she channels the voices of the dead, where boundary between the past and present dissolves, can be read as acting out. She does not remember her experience, she re-inhabits it. Becca, her daughter, by contrast, is engaged in something like working through. She is trying to reconstruct her mother's history, to give it form, to make it livable. So these two modes correspond to these two narrators and to the two lessons of our module. Now we put the framework to work. Two passages from Comfort Woman. The first is, I let my mind fly away. 6 words. In Caruth's terms, this sentence enacts both belatedness and dissociation. Notice the syntax. The subject I and the mind, my mind, are separated. Consciousness as split. The subject detached in order to survive what the body cannot escape. This is intrusion responded to by fragmentation. The second passage, that girl was dead. This refers to Akiko's former self, Son Yu, whose name and identity were erased by her captors. The past tense, narrated in the present, illustrates temporal collapse. The past is not over, it is narrated from within its own aftermath. The rupture of identity, the sentence describes is itself enactment of what belatedness does to selfhood. This is the difference between describing trauma and enacting it, and it is exactly the distinctions your close reader must learn to make. So, let me close with a summary and your preparation tasks. 3 things to take away. Trauma is defined by the structure of its return, not the event itself. Belatedness, latency, and intrusion describe how and when trauma returns. And acting out versus working through describe 2 modes of related to the past. Before lesson 1, please do the following. Read chapter 1 of Caruth and claimed experience. It is on Moodle. Complete the H5P flashcard activity. Annotate the 2 passages from this slide and bring your annotation to class. Complete the pre-class journal on Moodle and prepare a position for lesson 1 debate. If you have any questions, email me or come to my office on Tuesday between 9:30 and 12:30. I look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you.